You're still watching the AM show. Now, 1 out of every 5 girls in Ghana are now married before the legal age of 18. The situation is worse in some regions like the Upper East, where 1 out of 4 now is married before that age. Our colleague Justice Beidou has been following the stories of girls who are now falling out of school into marriage in a new documentary titled Marrying Too Young. I'll bring you some excerpts. Afterward, we'll have a conversation here in studio. What are we doing to mitigate this?
Lewi mam dai mam nyaayi English sore la mada zili yidwa sanga maraka man if marahan kasang yil ana wakan wan so bulana ma English sore ba makin school de ba ayo dana ma ba ala dana ma la ba ma kan king toke Marat sera de la obut la docteur ko madame cicira commence wala ya de la rata wa atla ma ara dan masi ma dan pezem le kolli so wala rawate ba prit mo mis bek ma krisna palaso de marat oh na haso mo Ara insi na wasak makalian pung sekolah na. Wei mau kalau wei buki awalnya, tak mau beras nggak belaga. Iku warna belikal, mana kau bela? Warna aku rada kan mesti maka kudukan. Ya rada ba azum ko kabut ni la anis ina balat la ana ko kayang serba so bala do hatla ni tena pot sera ko kay mo orlo boki hala marakin de blaga baba yi tata
So when the women are come out to talk, they don't value them. And they don't even value the women in the society. But when the men come out, like if I'm there to talk to people in the community, they will value them because they see to that the women are even the cause. They are the root of the problem. So if the women are come out to talk, they don't even listen. And then the women too, they don't even value them to be a responsible people in the society. So anytime they go out to talk, they will not even listen. They will not even tolerate to what they are saying. But any time that I come out or the men come out to talk to them, they always validate them because they always say the men are even supposed to talk to people, but not ladies. I am Adon Gilbert, a boy of 19 years, and I am ambassador for Youth Harvest. And then I'm working as a peer educator. Our main purpose is to fight against early marriage or teenage pregnancy in the communities. Sunday Grace was generated from his brother when he's forced to go and marry. Now when they gave birth, Sandra's husband was saying that he don't love her again. And then the man sacked her to come back to the family house. And he came without. He gave birth to 2 children. And when the man sacked him to come here, he came without the children. And he stayed here, and then what Sandra want to have, she not having a kid. By the time that Sandra was schooling, and I got to marry. So nowadays, I can't go back to school again, which leads to a lot of problems in the house with the family members.
Marrying too young, and there are a lot more stories like these. Justice Baidu, who followed up on this and did the stories, joining us via Skype now. Good morning to you, Justice.
Hello, good morning, Mama V.
Yeah, hi, Justice. I know you go out there to do a lot more stories like these, but how did you get hold of this one?
Over the last couple of months, we've been working on a couple of stories that highlight the issue of poverty and inequalities. And one of the issues that I came across in the Upper East region is the issue of so many young people who are now falling out of school because of increasing levels of poverty. They have to be given out in early marriages, because young women and girls are increasingly being seen as burdens in terms of on their parents and also on the communities in which they live. So that was what drew my attention to this small community, and that is basically what the story is about.
This young lady, how old was she when she got married in the first place?
Yeah, so Sandra was just about 15, 16, and she was in school, and her brother, who had traveled from the north and was living and working in the south, had already arranged a marriage for her with someone he claims to be a friend, and so he had done everything in Obuasi and taking the money and everything, and then went back to the north, to their hometown, to bring her down. So she had been told that she was going to live with someone who was going to take her to school, and then be responsible for her education and everything. And basically life was going to be good once she had moved, but that was not to be the case.
So how long was she married for? Because she had 2 children, correct?
Yes. So I think essentially she was just there for just about a little over 2 years. She was just there for a little over 2 years, and according to her, it was a really abusive relationship that she had. This man would do to her anything he wants, beat her up when he wants, and just sleep with her when he wants. I mean, it was basically just a life of pain and torture for her, and it ended up that she had to be brought back home because the man now says he doesn't want her.
But she left her children behind.
Yes, and that's the other thing, because when you give birth in that part of the country, the children belongs to the man's family, and so you don't have access to your children if you're a woman, and so she's not been allowed to come close to her own children. If you listen to some parts of the interview where she was talking about the fact that the last time she tried to have access to the children, she again was beaten up by the man's family. And yeah, so basically she hasn't got access to her children, and she herself now has her life literally thrown into chaos, because now she's fallen out of school. She hasn't got any skill to get any work, and she's just there and basically just doing nothing. And Sandra is just one of hundreds of young people, not just in the Upper East region, in fact, all across Ghana. And it would interest you to know that, I mean, we've always tagged the 3 regions of the North as the place where instances like child marriage are prevalent. But it would interest you to know that even in regions like Greater Accra region and Ashanti region, according to the statistics that we are having now, are really having increasing numbers of young people who are getting married against their will and below the legal age of 18.
So, Justice, how old is Sandra?
Sandra is 18 years now, but this ordeal she has had to go through over the last 3 years of her life. So yeah, so she got married at 15, and over the last 3 years, obviously has been the most difficult years of her life.
Just hang on there for me. Let me bring into this conversation Dinah Adiko, who is technical advisor on gender with the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection. Good morning to you, Dinah, if you can hear me. Okay, so we don't have Dinah readily on the phone lines now, but Justice, you can still hear me, can you? Okay, so Justice, because I was just going to ask Dinah what can be done in terms of Sandra's got her children with her former husband and she can't get hold of her children. What can be done? What is she doing? Because I know that there's also a little hope there, because there are some people who are trying to help girls like that from the story that you filed. So what's the way out?
I think, I mean, Sandra, like I said, Sandra, she's just one. There are hundreds of young girls who have similar stories. And I think that the most important thing to do is to enforce the laws that currently exist.
Okay,
so that
Justice, rudely, I'm just going to interrupt you again and ask you to just hang in there for me. Let me just bring Dinah Adiko into this conversation. She's technical advisor on gender with the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection. Good morning to you, Dinah. Thanks for your time.
Good morning. Mama, sorry, the line is very, very faint.
Okay, so I'm just going to try and speak up a bit and hope that you can hear me clearly. Is it better now?
A bit, yes. We can give it a shot.
So we have 18-year-old Sandra, who is already divorced with 2 children. And I know that even though some of us may be hearing this for the first time, you have so many stories like this. First of all, I want you to tell us what the ministry is doing. What have you been doing? What are the things that you've been exposed to? And how have you resolved some of these stories?
Okay, so thank you so much, Mamazi, for this opportunity. The ministry, and good job to Justice for a revealing documentary. At least this informs even wider and builds on the efforts of the ministry to educate the public on issues of child marriage. The statistics in Ghana, as Justice pointed out, shows glaringly that child marriage cuts across the entire country. It's prevailing at a minimum. Greater Accra registers a minimum prevalence rate of 18.8%, and the northern region is registering at about 39+%, followed by Upper West, Upper East, and then the Western region, Central region, Eastern region, Ashanti region, and it comes down like that. So it's a national problem, and we ought to be concerned. Justice pointed out earlier that people believe that this is a practice that is prevailing only in the northern part of our country, but indeed it is actually happening across Ghana. So government, through the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection, in 2014, began efforts to launch a national campaign to end child marriage. And what the efforts that have been put through has been first and foremost to increase awareness. You remember in June, I think 2015, the president went to the United Nations and said child marriage is of big concern to Ghana, and that we're trying to take steps to end it. And people cried foul because they thought there were bigger problems in Ghana than child marriage, and that child marriage was not part of Ghana's problems and priorities. But then we said it is big, it affects life, it affects the human capital development of our country. It's affecting the health of girls, so the country needed to respond. So the ministry set up a unit that is with its focus to end child marriage. And part of the things that is involved in, as I said, is to increase awareness, and then to come up with a document that guides all stakeholders on what to do and how to respond. I know you're asking, for example, what can Sandra do to have access to her children? Mm-hmm. That is the role of social welfare, for example. And this document is proposing the different things that different stakeholders should be doing in responding not only to ending the practice, but supporting victims of child marriage to pick their lives up and to move on to the next stage. So, for example, Sandra can be helped by her district social welfare office and also go through the regional social welfare office. Have access to her children. From all indications, the children are below age 3 or 4. Those children need to be with their mother, except their mother has been declared unfit to take care of the children, or she's been declared harmful to the children. Then those are grounds to take them away from her. Other than that, she's entitled fully to be with her children, to see them as and when she wants, even if she's not the primary caregiver. So that can be handled immediately, and Sandra can get to have access to those kids.
Sure,
Sandra can also be given the opportunity through other departments and agents to go back to school if she wants to, or she chooses to learn a skill.
Okay, so I wanted to ask a specific question on that. What's the exact system that's in place if she wants to go back to school, for instance?
It's the general education policy, for example, is open, and there's a lot of misconception about that. There has been a lot of narrative that the education service does not allow girls who have had children or girls who have been married before to go back to school. There's no policy like that. As a matter of fact, there's a policy to have girls back in school and to continue their education. What has been the challenge is the girls being comfortable, given the ordeal and the circumstances they've gone through, and account with that from society. They do not usually feel confident to go back to school. If she so wants, part of the proposal on the table is that she goes to another community to go to school with support of family members, with support of the community, and with support of the school system that she goes back to school. Often than not, they would want to get some skills. So the different, depending on the district she's in, if there are different youth employment programs, if there are non-governmental organizations who are doing skills training for such young people, then she can be enrolled in that, and then she picks her life up again. So it's not all gloomy for her. It's a traumatic experience. She would need counseling and support. She would need support of families and friends. She would need also support of the institutions to rise up again and then move on with her life. But it's not all gone and lost.
Yeah, sure. Is there a certain office, a certain place where if somebody feels like I'm being forced as a child to marry someone and that's not what I want for my life, is there a place that they can run to?
Absolutely. And such a place is not only open to people who are potential victims, it's actually open to all of us as society. When you notice that anybody below the age of 18 is being pushed into marriage, you report first and foremost to the police. In the event that the police, the specialized unit of the police, which is DOFTO, the Domestic Violence and Victim Support Unit, is not within the district, regular police would take note of this case and make necessary referral. But the Department of Social Welfare is also one place to report, and they are taking action. I think some miscommunication has gone about their reaction, but over the last 1 year, the Department of Social Welfare and the police are the primary contact places, and they are reacting to these cases and rescuing girls.
But, you know, Diana, I'm looking at the practical, you know, like somebody is watching us right now and hearing this conversation and is in a situation like that. You know, you can't go back home. If you run to the police, we know that they don't have the structures. I mean, where are they going to keep you? What are they going to do? They'll probably say, go back home, we're going to investigate.
No, I think those are that's how we are communicating this to the public and getting to carry. There are challenges with the institutions and all of that. But I know the police are finding ways to place victims. There are some shelters that are taking victims. Their families, extended families, when located, are taking victims in and protecting them. So the police is not saying go back home, we're going to investigate. In fact, they're increasingly taking legal action against the perpetrators, which includes the husband and his family, the girl's family who are consenting to this act, are all liable. So when she's sick, she's placed with, shelter systems in the world are usually considered as the last alternative or last resort. We try often than not to find which families and relatives outside the communities usually are ready to support this child and take her in. We try also to see which foster families are interested in taking the child in. So the first reaction on us as the public is to report. And on case-by-case basis, and based on the merits of each case, solutions are found. It's not a matter as soon as you report a child is sick and taken to a shelter. In some cases that we have seen over the last 1 and 2 years, when the families are engaged and the bride, the groom, the prospective husband are engaged, they retreat, they backtrack, and they are remorseful for a decision and are acting like that. Some of them are not informed. So when they are engaged by social welfare, by the police, the girl is safe and she's monitored by the usual education directors and the gender officers from the district. And most of them are in school and doing well. So it's a very worrying situation, but we think the structures at the district and community levels are trying. In cases where they are unable to handle it, some of them are brought to Accra to the National Doctor Office, and then all of us get on board to see what options can be given to them for them to continue their education. But Mama, I just want to point out that in Ghana, we are increasingly believing that a high percentage of cases of child marriage are those that have to do with forcing young girls into relationships. But we are finding also that child marriage is happening increasingly because of teenage pregnancy. That when young girls, out of whatever reason, be it that they are adventurous, be it that they were sexually violated, in the event of pregnancy, they are compelled by their family to get married to whoever impregnated them. That is the highest influencing factor of child marriage now than the scenario that Sandra is experiencing. Both of them are of great concern to us as a country, and we need to address them. So issues around sexual and reproductive health, when young people get pregnant, if you go around the coastal areas, not many of them are picked by their families because they are considered as burdens, financial burdens and responsibilities, so they are transferred onto their potential husbands. Some of them are actually getting pregnant. People willing to say, I'm ready for marriage out of peer pressure. Or they get pregnant, family says, so long as they are pregnant, that child has to be born in the house of your husband. So as we look at the different aspects, we need to focus on issues of sexual and reproductive health. How do we reduce the cases of teenage pregnancy, which is the strongest influencing factor in Ghana now on child marriage? The Western region, the Volta region, the Greater Accra region, the Central region, and Bonga has 4 Ashanti. They are all registering child marriage cases high because girls are getting pregnant and they are saying marry whoever we impregnated. So that is an aspect of the conversation we need to put on the table. How is parenting going? Most of these are also done due to poor parenting. Parents are not keeping in touch with their young ones. They are not managing their lives. They are not controlling. They are not playing their role effectively. So they are falling victim to all teenage vices, and then babies are coming and then marriages are following.
Sure.
So those are aspects that we also need to keep our eyes on.
So from where you sit and what you're exposed to, do you feel that we're winning the fight against child marriage, for instance?
I think momentum is gathering as a country. 3 years ago, when we were even trying to find, before the unit was officially opened and the campaign was launched, when we were trying to find which organizations were working on ending child marriage, it was very difficult. It was isolated. It was dotted all over the place. We could not find people who were doing comprehensive work. 2 years later, there's a high momentum. Several number of organizations have come on board. There are networks, there are coalitions on ending child marriage, there are specific activities by government institutions, non-governmental institutions. So we think momentum is gathering. We think the media has come on board, and the media has been one of our strongest allies since September 2014 when we took off. We worked with the media. They are giving us very good stories, very informative, very up-to-date. They're getting the statistics right. So I think people are increasingly getting on board. We are working with the House of Chiefs. When the campaign was launched by the President and the First Lady in February 2016, we had all the 10 presidents of the House of Chiefs present. And they all committed that they were going to work with us to end child marriage. Some of the very interesting things they've done. When the regions that recognize that for them, the highest influencing factor was teenage pregnancy and poor parenting. Some of the chiefs have formed bylaws. For example, they don't have wakekeeping late beyond 9 p.m. And if they find children loitering around after 9 or 8 p.m. to find their parents, compelling parents to be in charge of their children's lives. The role of the traditional authority was very, very crucial.
Okay.
We have very strong partnership with religious authorities too.
Okay.
The laws are there, and the law says any marriage below age of 18 is criminal, is a violation of the rights of the child. Mind you, we cannot jail everybody who plays a role in that and think that is the solution. We think, in addition to working along the lines of the law, we ought to very critically work with communities and families and individuals to ensure that there's an understanding, and together we work to ensure. And we say kudos to the media for championing this cause, because without your microphone, we are unable to reach out wide.
Okay, Dinah, I had a last question, but I have to let it go because of time. We appreciate your time on this conversation. We've got Justice Baidu, who's still with us. Justice, I think my last question, I'll probably put it to you. Now that you've told the story, what next? After airing, what have you gotten? What's the way forward for Sandra?
I mean, I think, like I said, Sandra is just one of many cases. And I heard everything that Dinah said in her interview. But I think that it's not as if we do not have laws against forcing children to get married. It's not as if we do not have structures like the social welfare scheme. They are represented in every district. But I think that the most important thing is to strengthen these institutions in a way that they respond to the needs as they occur in modern times, and also support the laws that exist. So, for example, some of these girls, like Dinah did point out, have to usually go into the marriage because sometimes there's a pregnancy and all of that. And once they have to come out of school, they do not have any option to build their own life. So they don't have a source of earning a livelihood, and so they then automatically have to depend on men and other family members. And so it makes it easier for people to convince them to get into these marriages. One of the many things that most of the organizations that I interviewed for this documentary talked about is that we need to open up the opportunities, the space for young girls to increase to build their talent, to build opportunities for them to get a sustainable livelihood. So for girls who do not have the opportunity to go to school again, what happens to them? It should be
we will have to end on that question, unfortunately, Justice, and continue the conversation in studio another time. But that's Justice Baidu. I've got to say congratulations to you as well for exposing this situation in the way that you've done as well. Thank you for watching. Stay with us.